The Sound of Dow podcast is also available to listen to on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible. So if you want to listen to your podcast, you can go check it out there. If not, what's up, guys? Okay, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Sound of Dow. So Joe Biden held his first press conference after like 100 freaking days or however long it's been today. And needless to say, I watched the whole thing. It was pretty dumb. I mean, honestly, that's all I really have to say about it. It was dumb. It was cringe. And we'll get into why that is in a little bit. But normally, I would just make a video, here are all the stupid things Joe Biden said in the press conference today, and I just make a video basically making fun of him like this.
So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're ready to get a lot done.
But the thing is, today is Thursday. It is the podcast day, so I did want to talk about something a little bit deeper, a little bit nuanced, that I've been realizing for a while, but really was kind of reminded of during the press conference today. And I especially noticed this when Caitlin Collins, okay, you remember Caitlin Collins? She's the female White House reporter for CNN, right? She's female Jim Acosta, basically, does the same shtick as Jim Acosta she used to under the Trump presidency. Back when Trump was president, she used to get up here, make these long, like minute-long political speeches framed as journalistic questions that were never actually questions. And she was just a huge drama queen. Used to fight for the mic, basically. You used to be like, hey, you're not answering my question, Mr. President. Hey, Mr. President, she was one of those reporters. And yet you see her today. Watch how Caitlin Collins, who is known as agent provocateur over here under the Trump presidency, watch how she interacts with Biden.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from Yamiche, and that's on the filibuster.
That counts as a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a quick question.
You can.
And that's probably the best example, but you could see this with basically all of the reporters, all of the journalists, right? They all behave like this all of a sudden. And so you can truly tell who the journalists view as their master, and you can tell that the journalists bow down to their master, okay? And that's going to get into this central point of my podcast, which is, do you ever feel like everything under the Biden administration just feels staged? Like it almost feels, I want to say, fake to an extent? You ever feel that? You ever kind of get that feeling? You ever notice that it's almost as if, the news media and academia and the government now all basically work as one. They function as one. They function as like one institution of the ruling class, all in, all in unison. And if you kind of get that feeling, it's accurate. It's correct. You're right in feeling that, because it's absolutely true what's going on here. What you see under the Biden administration, I'll say it like this, is the illusion of political democracy, okay? And by political democracy, I don't just mean, the aspect of voting at the ballot box. And just for YouTube disclaimer purposes, because they strike down all videos, no, YouTube, I am not claiming that the 2020 election had widespread fraud or anything like that, okay? I'm not making those claims because you're not allowed to make those on YouTube, so I would never claim such a thing. But when I say the illusion of political democracy, I'm not just talking about the voting at the ballot box aspect of it. I'm talking about the sort of holistic system that you actually need to have a true democracy, which, traditionally speaking, you have the government, right, and the people elect the leaders in the government, but you need independent institutions in the news media and in academia to serve as the people's watchdog against their government. And traditionally in America, the news media always has had bias and favorites and stuff like that, but traditionally in America, that was the role of the news media, which was to basically be a check and balance almost in terms of the court of public opinion on the ruling class, on the government. And the same used to be true of academia, right? Mostly through these studies, they would analyze government policies, see if they're working or not, or try to suggest new government policies, or try to influence new ideas in the government. But traditionally speaking, and just in general, if you want to have a real political democracy, you need an independent news media to serve as the people's watchdog, basically, on the government, and you need independent academia to serve as the people's, basically, assessor of how well government policies are working. And needless to say, under the Biden administration, you can tell that neither of those institutions are independent. They are all working as one. They all work in cahoots, basically in the name of the ruling class. And you saw this under Trump as well. I mean, Trump was president back when he was president, but you really never got the feeling that he was in charge. You could tell he was kind of a rogue president, a lame duck in the sense that the political establishment was always trying to work to get him out. And the reason is Trump was never supposed to be there. The whole sort of like one-party state thing that you're seeing, not just in the government, but just in society in general, like if you feel like the ruling class rules the news media, the corporations, academia, and of course, right now, the government. This has been going on long before Biden. It is true. But the thing is, before Trump basically took office, you had corporations buying up more and more media and stuff like that. Like the ruling class was truly consolidating its power. Academia the problems in academia are more transparent today. They've been taking root for a while. Same with the news media, and obviously same with the government. But they used to kind of keep it a little bit more balanced, a little bit more fair, and that's mainly because the political establishment, or I should say the ruling class, because it goes outside of politics, never really saw there being a huge threat to their power out there, right? And they were out of touch. They were delusional. They were so conceited and so egotistical in their own power that they couldn't see this sort of populist movement that was arising with the people and the populist discontent that a lot of regular Americans were having with the system. And that's why Trump in 2016 came out of like left field for them. Like they were not expecting it. They were very surprised when he became the Republican nominee. They were once they won the election, they were shocked. Okay, and I think honestly, this is what was going on in the news media, especially, and within the government too, but especially in the news media. I think initially the news media really just covered Trump because they thought it was funny. They thought he was entertaining. They thought he was kind of a joke, and that was it. But when Trump actually beat Hillary and won the election, they were shocked. I mean, they were genuinely shocked. They could not believe it. And so I think after that, the relationship between Trump and the news media turned from just being like kind of a joke, kind of like a satirical little segment, to being an adversarial relationship. Like the news media could not believe. The news media, by the way, ran by the ruling class at this point. Just like, the ruling class, I guess, used to be a little bit more lenient, but once they saw Trump took power and they saw this threat to the political establishment, to the threat to their power, immediately they locked it all down. They were like, nope, that's where you saw the coverage against Trump truly start to become adversarial, right? It was like they just basically propaganda. Anti-Trump propaganda, 24/7, dystopian style. And, the same was true across the board. Academia suddenly became super duper politically polarized. You saw the behavior of the government. The ruling class at that point realized that their power, they used to sort of have the view of let the people eat their cake. It's okay. Like, okay, we can be kind of fair assessors of stuff sometimes. As soon as Trump took power, they realized that it's like, nope, no freedom for anyone. And that's basically what they saw. No true political democracy for anyone. We are creating this. We're creating a one-party state, and that's what was gradually happening under the Trump presidency. The political establishment continuously was trying to consolidate its power, and you have that Time article about dark money and like this underground basically fight to, in their words, secure the 2020 election. And I'll let you decide what they really meant by that. But you saw this basically this sort of battle by the political establishment, and in 2020 it became so transparently obvious. And like I said, you're not allowed to talk about the election basically on YouTube, but it really started before the election, right? You saw what big tech and what Twitter were doing in cahoots with basically the Biden campaign, and you saw especially what the news media was doing. They were all working in conjunction here. Okay, they were all working in conjunction. And so circling back to what you're seeing under the Biden administration, and you watch the news media coverage under the Biden administration, it's cringe. I mean, it's literally just cringe. Every once in a while, they're talking about the border. not really talk about the border, but half talk about the border just to kind of make it look like they're being objective every once in a while. But overall, it's cringe. I mean, you remember what CNN was saying on inauguration day? Oh, the arms of Joe Biden stretching out against a broken nation. Like, yeah, it's damn cringe. But that's what it is. It's straight up propaganda. It's not news media. We don't have a news media anymore. We have a propaganda wing for the ruling class. For the ruling class that is also has the White House and has the government and has the big corporations. They're all working together here, folks. Okay. And like I'm saying, that's what you ultimately see under the Biden administration. It's the illusion of political democracy. They always talk about democracy. I mean, clearly they really don't believe in it because you need some degree of transparency in the government and the news media and just society in general to actually have a functioning democratic system. And you obviously don't have that. But it doesn't matter to them. Again, it's the illusion of democracy. That's what you have under the Biden administration, right? And in 2016, they realized, that letting people kind of actually have some functioning aspects of what a real political democracy would look like, can't do it because the people are inherently going to revolt against the political elites, the current ruling establishment. And by the way, we've always basically had a ruling establishment in America. That's just how any governmental system works. Whether or not people want to admit it, there are always going to be elites in society, right? It just depends on who those elites are. And for a long time in American history, a lot of those elites genuinely wanted sort of a functioning society, right? And actually sort of genuinely sort of had an idea what they're doing. And clearly the political elites at the current moment want neither. Okay, they want neither. And I don't know if I'm honestly making sense with this podcast, but the point I'm making is that, you saw Biden today. That press conference basically felt fake in a way, okay? The journalists were asking him softballs. You could tell how different they behave under Biden, but beyond that, Joe didn't even call on these reporters by looking around and just picking on reporters. He had a pre-written list of the reporters in order that he was going to call on. For a few of his responses, he straight up read off the page on down. That was on the podium. He basically read off the answer, implying that many of these questions were probably pre-scripted. Okay, that's what his entire administration is. It's scripted, and it's scripted precisely because after Trump, after 2016, the political establishment basically realized the great risk they pose of actually letting people have real freedom and real openness and real transparency in their government. They realized, oh shoot, if we have any aspects of a fair media or unbiased institutions, the people are going to get us out of power. So we need to just create this authoritarian one-party state, and that's what you see. It's fake. It's an illusion, okay? They talk about democracy. They obviously they don't believe it because in order to have democracy, a real democracy, and democracy is kind of cringe, but in order to have a real democracy, you have to have an informed and educated populace. And our populace, they want neither for our populace. Because it's all an illusion. It's a fake democracy. It's okay. It's a fake democracy. At the end of the day, it is all of them working together to consolidate power so that someone like Trump can never take office again. Some outsider, some actual man of the people. They're trying to consolidate power in society so that you'll never see something like that rise again. And one would think, right, because you see, you ever also get the feeling that they're kind of in a way leading our country to disaster for some reason you really can't figure out? One would also think, and sometimes I'm like, hold on a minute. If the elites really wanted to basically be popular and be liked by society, why don't they just do things that people would like? Why are they so ghoulishly obsessed with bringing in about as many illegal immigrants as possible, which is something that is not popular really in general in society, and why are they basically just actively trying to tear down the social fabric of society? I mean, you see this. If the elites just wanted to have a stable society that they could be in control, you think they kind of do the opposite of what they're doing right now. And then, I've sort of thought about that. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of think to myself that what the elites are ultimately trying to do is actually push our country into either a civil war or something like a civil war, just like a mass social upheaval, social conflict, so that once that, like, that's what they're trying to do. That's why they have this broken immigration system. That's why they are trying to tear down all the foundations of society, moral and historical. All of it at the end of the day, I think, is ultimately done with the goal of tearing down society so much that people are either led to fight each other or to basically rise up. Then, out of the chaos, here's what I think. Out of all that chaos, the elites, the establishment will crush it. And because of the chaos, the masses will be begging for order, basically. And that's when they come in, they do their true authoritarian crackdown. And, they use, like, you kind of saw the outline of this after January 6th. Something happens, a lot of people are kind of like, no, we want order, and the establishment uses it as an excuse to do a full authoritarian, totalitarian takeover of our system. You saw a glimpse of it on January 6th. I think that's ultimately what they're working towards, okay? I don't know if any of this podcast honestly made sense, but it's just kind of what's been on my mind. So that being said, hopefully this made a lick of sense. I don't even know if I made any sense on this podcast, but I'm still going to post it anyway because I really don't have anything better to talk about. So yeah, with that being said, folks, hopefully I don't know if I made any sense. People probably think I sound like Alex Jones. Although Alex Jones has actually kind of been discovered to be right about some things. So maybe that's not such a bad comparison. But I don't know. Anyways, folks, I'll see you guys later, and yeah, peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to click some of the stuff on my left for some more awesome content. Also, to follow me on social media, check out my podcast, and some more awesome stuff, be sure to check out the links down in my description. All right? Peace.